Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. I am really excited to introduce you guys today to Joe and Mirta Barnett. They're in Orange County, California. They've been doing a wide range of photography for almost 20 years now and have such an awesome perspective on helping other photographers in the industry grow their business. As we always talk about on this show, there's so many reasons why we've gotten into photography, but the most important one is running a business and making that distinction between a hobby and an actual business. And this show today is going to be packed with all kinds of tangible tips and how you can market your business and grow your business. So, Joe and Mirta, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
You're very
It's
welcome.
great to be here. Yeah, really excited to be here, and thank you for having us.
Of course. So, give us a quick intro into how you guys discovered your love and passion of photography and the different types that you guys do.
Okay.
Well, from a very young age, I was interested in photography because my uncle was a newspaper photographer. Very young age. But as I grew older, I needed to go to college, so my first degree was in accounting, which comes in very handy to anybody in the arts. Then after that, I went into photography. I worked for a major daily newspaper, the wire services. I wanted to be a photojournalist and go to wars and get shot at. Then I realized that although it's glamorous, doesn't pay very well, it's hazardous, and you don't have a lot of control of your career. So I went into weddings and portraits with a bit of a photojournalistic style, even before that was
The hot
in
thing
vogue.
to do. Yeah, right.
So I was trying to do that with a Hasselblad and a tripod and baked potato masher flash. But when Mirta joined the business
I'll take over now. All right, so my story. Thank you, Joe. I have a completely different background than Joe. I've always been an artist, a fine artist, drawing, painting, anything crafty.
Yeah.
But then, of course, kind of hard to make money as a fine artist, so I got into marketing and advertising. I figured it's somewhat creative, and I did that for about 15 years.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was at crossroads thinking, I need to do something more artistic. This is done, this is good. I've made a nice life for myself, but I need a more creative path. So I was going to quit my job, just start over and go back to school for computer animation or whatever. And then I met Joe. And here's Joe with this great photography business. I have all this marketing background. Of course, we hit it off. It was a good match. And so when we got married, we thought, okay, well, let's just do it ourselves. Joe had a few other photographers working for him at the time. It was kind of doing about 100 weddings a year. But when we got together, we said, okay, let's go way down in our numbers, but offer more higher quality, better service. Now that I'm in the picture, I can do marketing and I can do all the post and sales and so forth. But then
At the time, I was just coming out of a 10-year career with Rockwell International. I was senior corporate photographer for B1 and Shuttle. So the weddings where Ola had been doing those before my Rockwell time, were a side business sort of. Now that we were full-time on our own, we decided to go, instead of the high volume, it was the shoot and burn version of a film. Here are your negatives, your 5x5 proofs, get out of my house.
Yeah.
So we decided to go to a different clientele. And I must warn you, if you start very inexpensively and a year later, after you have a good following, you change your prices dramatically, you're going to hear crickets. The phone's not going to ring because all your clients have friends who are looking for the same thing their friend got.
Right.
So if you're getting started, start trying to get what you want to get. You make incremental increases, but don't think, I'm going to shoot and burn for 2 years, get a nice clientele, and then start offering albums. You have to start from the beginning, knowing that it may be hard. At the time, I was doing a lot more commercial work, so that worked out. But if you're starting out, if you have another job or whatever, keep it until you can make what you want the way that you want to make it. Develop samples and so forth.
We think the best way to go about it, if you are getting into the business and want to be more of a high-end photographer, start off with good prices where you want to be, but then as you're getting there, maybe do some jobs for your portrait, for your portfolio and so forth, so that when you do get up to that level, you can start charging that right away instead of having to go up like we did when we got together. We had low prices because Joe was doing his thing, and then we went up by 3 times.
Right.
And like Joe said, we heard crickets, but luckily we had all the commercial side of the business keeping us afloat during that time.
And that's so, I think people get so stressed out about pricing. It's a very, especially those of us that have more creative backgrounds, pricing is a tricky thing. Like, where do you base it off your competition? Where do you base, like, it's a hard thing to choose. And I think that the point you make is perfect, though, is wherever you do pick, you oftentimes, I tell people to go up to where you're comfortable and you feel like, yeah, I can claim this, and then go a little bit farther. And just push yourself a little bit. Say, yes, I can claim this. This is what my work is worth. And it also gets easier to claim that when you're selling product, when you're completing a full suite of services. I think the shoot and burners are going, well, how do all I'm doing is raising my price and nothing's really changing. When you raise your prices and you offer this broad set of products and an experience, then I think it becomes natural that you charge what you're worth.
In our workshops, we can do, especially when we do a one-on-one with a particular photographer, we can do a half day on pricing, and that's just letting them know how they should go about it. We don't pretend to. It's good to know the formula so that you can in the future do the pricing. And there are various ways. The easiest one for any photographer is to figure out what they want to make and then add cost to it. And the most involved one is if you already have a brand, you can charge whatever you want because people are looking for you. And there's a lot of places in between. So that's a whole day's workshop.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it. Like, so those are some really handy places to start. But to really dig in, there's value in attending a workshop with you guys or with somebody where you really put everything on the table. What goes into the business and all the things that it requires to run a business.
And the thing is that a lot of photographers see what some of the rock stars in our industry are charging, and they don't realize that they have to have a certain name or certain recognition in order to achieve those prices.
Even quality.
And quality, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
But also offering the products. We have a very good relationship with our labs and our canvas printer. We have some back here in the back from Pixel to Canvas. And you have to show this product to your clients. You're showing them a fine art product of their family. They can't buy it anywhere else.
Yep.
So we should not sell ourselves short when it comes time to price our products and not apologize as we tell them how much we charge for our items.
Exactly. So when we first met over the phone a few weeks back, we were talking about there's the pricing issue. There's as much a discussion, so to speak, on shoot and burners or flat rate or selling the digital images. Right. What is your approach on that whole thing?
Can I hit that one?
Sure.
Well, we actually include all of our large size edited, meaning corrected files after we're done with each client. So they know that for safekeeping, they will have and by the way, we make a big distinction. Edited to us means corrected. Retouching.
Corrected in Lightroom.
Corrected in Lightroom for density, color, and contrast.
Got it.
And when photographers refer to retouching as editing, I think it cheapens the craft. Artfully editing an image sounds more artistic and more time-consuming and more professional than I edited your file. So we tell them that at the end of the journey, when they get their album, for safekeeping, they'll have large corrected JPEGs of their wedding, not of their engagement session. That is handled as a portrait session. So they know that for safety's sake, they have that. But other than that, we don't ever release anything that has been retouched to a client. You don't know if they're going to take it to Costco and they're going to get a bad print out of it. We are photographers that sell product. We are not in the business of selling little round shiny things with zeros and ones in them.
Yeah, right.
I think that's how you are really not allowing yourself the vessel in which to add more product.
And to play devil's advocate, I mean, there's so many people that have gotten into the industry because the barrier of entry is lower, and I think that I think a lot of people are starting there because what they know first is taking good pictures. They don't know the business side, and they're like, oh, all these cool tools. I can just do online sales, and I'll make money while I sleep.
Sure.
Right? And so they start there, but I think that even if what I loved about when I first talked with you is even if you've built your business where you pretty much don't sell product, you just deliver this images on a CD. Right. You are still leaving. Let's say you're able to charge $3,000 to $5,000 per portrait session just for the images. You're still leaving a ton of money on the table, and you don't have to work that much harder. Where you ask yourself, is it worth it? My time to have a 1 hour order session. where I add an additional $1,000 to $2,000 or more of revenue.
Absolutely.
I think lawyers make less than that.
Right.
Let me add something to that. When you look at the photographers doing the low priced and they're thinking, oh yeah, it's easy. I just took some pictures and I charged a couple $100. Oh yeah, they first of all, they're not realizing that what they actually made is about a quarter of that. When you put in the marketing and the time it takes in post production, they don't, all that doesn't kind of sink in yet.
Right.
And the other option is that, oh yeah, I can just make, you mentioned something about, oh yeah, and I can just make money online orders while I sleep. Well, that doesn't really happen either, because what's online now, it's all just the Facebook stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So they'll take their images, if they get their digital files, and they'll just go ahead and they'll just downsize them and they'll use them on Facebook. Mm-hmm. So that's not even happening more. Even we're noticing that reprint orders on off of our online gallery aren't as much as they used to be. It's gone down tremendously since Facebook, which is fine. That's just the way things are going.
Yep.
So the bottom line is you have to show the product. You have to bring them in. You have to show them product. If you don't have, and like Joe said, if you don't have that product to show, you're not going to sell it. Plain and simple.
Right.
And to an analogy that I wanted to bring up, we recently had a client who did a very, very healthy collection coming in, and then we proposed an album afterwards when they came in from their session that was $7,000 over what they had come. And by the way, they know about this from the very beginning. It's not a bait and switch situation. When they come in, we tell them that the proposed album in that collection, and by the way, the word collection works because you're never done collecting anything. It's not a package that is all packaged up. If you collect spoons from every state, even after you have them all, you want the one from Hawaii.
Right.
So so that's how they know that it's our job to show them their wedding through our eyes the best way possible. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Just put it on the floor upside down. Oh. So anyway, we actually showed her a $7,000 album.
Yeah.
By this time, after the wedding, the budget was not what it was at the beginning, and her husband was more involved, and he was more the break of the situation. So they brought that album down to $3,500 or so.
Right.
Which is still very healthy.
Yep.
And that last couple of prints were a struggle, because we take it out, it's another $40. With us, if they buy a certain number, it goes down.
Yep.
So we barely squeaked in at that price. We thought that's all they need to spend. We don't ever push, of course. As soon as we started going into the covers available, leather or fabric or no extra cost, and then I said, oh, you can have a metal cover, which is $250. She said, I want that metal cover, and that was a done deal.
Yep.
Faster than you could bat an eye. So I chose to show that metal cover. That could have been a nice addition. So it worked out very, very well.
Right.
You have to show it. Also, canvas wraps, we display them. Sign-in books for their engagement session. Most of our collections do not include a sign-in book, but they see them here. We talk about it when we're shooting.
Yep.
It's a nice product we designed. So there are a lot of things like that.
So I want to pull that apart, because there's so many powerful lessons in that example. One of them, I think, is, you've been saying it, is you won't sell what you don't show.
Right.
Number one, and people will pay and invest money for whatever it is they want.
Right.
I think we talk about, we know lots of people driving cars they can't afford, and to use your analogy from earlier, TVs they don't need or shouldn't afford.
Too big for their living room. Yes.
Exactly.
Well, because I think people are want things, and if they can afford them, they will purchase them.
Yep.
Not necessarily to link to whether they can afford it or not. And if you can have something that is an heirloom, to quote Jerry Gionis at a recent talk that he gave, something that will become priceless in the future, meaning a wedding album, should be expensive today. And if you show it that way, that's always been our approach. I never put it that eloquently. I guess it's the Australian accent that made it sound really good. But something that is that important, we treat with a lot of care. When someone says, well, I can always get that picture done later because I've been getting all the files, right? When we're talking about the album design. Yes, but it won't be in the album. It won't be retouched. It won't be part of a spread. It won't be there when you sit your granddaughter in your lap years from now and show her your beautiful wedding album, and she says, wow, look how hot grandma was. Yep. And when I put things like that to our young clients, they get it. Sometimes a mother of the bride might say, why is a parent's album $1,500 or something in that neighborhood? And I'll say, why did you pay $2,000 for that Louis Vuitton purse? Which are you going to have longer? And in the case of a fire, God forbid, which one are you going to grab before you run out the door?
Right.
And then they get it. You have to really open their eyes to those. But you have to do that from a classy situation. You have to have a good sales area. You have to dress properly. You have to offer them something. It's all related to a good experience.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that you have to sell yourself in order to get the job. You have to sell yourself in order to book that wedding. But you have to sell product in order to make a living.
Right.
And that's
so
what we
when you
strive.
say, so a lot in all these things you're saying is, we could spend hours and hours in each one of these subjects alone.
And we do.
The key takeaways are you can't just all of a sudden. So when you decide, we've convinced you guys finally, I'm going to start selling more product. Where do I start? Well, you can't just all of a sudden say, well, here's an album that I do also. At the order session, that's not going to work. They've got to see when they first meet you, from the very first moment they've been exposed to your brand, to start learning about the different products that you offer, so that when they finally get to the order session, they don't feel manipulated, they don't feel taken advantage, they just feel that they're educated, and now I'm going to learn more about the different things I can get from this company.
Right, and let me say something real quick. And the whole thing about the education is really important because, like Joe was mentioning, we tell them all about how we're going to do the album sales process even before they are our client.
Right.
This is on the first meeting. This is really important. Even before they've even hired us, this is how we do it. We're going to show you, you have this collection, for instance, has 60 images coming in the album, in your 11 by 14 or 12 by 12 album. However, when you come to see your images about 2 weeks after, about 2 to 3 weeks after the wedding, you will pick your favorites, come in for an album design session, and you'll see an album with about maybe 100 images. I don't know how many it's going to be. Your wedding, I don't know how big your wedding is going to be.
The wedding hasn't happened yet.
It doesn't happen yet, but it's going to be a lot more than you have coming, just so you know. And then together, we will work as a team to collaborate and bring your album down to exactly the number of images that you are comfortable with and that tell a beautiful story. And with our help, we'll make the process super easy. And this is a huge plus. And also, I don't think a lot of photographers are taking the time to work with the client after the wedding to collaborate. Now, there's other ways to approach this. Some photographers, they are more of the artist, let's say, and so they kind of angle themselves by saying, I'm going to design an album, this is my design, and we're going to do it all for you. And that's fine too. And if that's how the client wants to go about it, great, but we choose to do the more collaboration thing because I think it sits better with them, and they feel more secure that they've made a good purchase.
Here's some morsel that's worth the price of admission.
Right.
If you shoot a burner right now and you want to start selling albums, make one up. Shoot a wedding as if you were, don't make any money on it. Bring your second shooter, bring an assistant, do it right, and make an album from it.
Yep.
Show that to your future shoot and burners. Now, if you're charging $800 for a shoot and burn, charge $995. You're not going to lose a client for $200 or maybe only $100 more. What I'm getting at is part of what they're getting is $100 or $200 worth of credit. If they're having to come back to you for anything because there's credit, they'll buy more than the credit they had coming. If you just download the images, then you're done. But if they come in to use up their $200 and they see that album, perhaps you already did one, and you're showing them that and say, by the way, you have $200 coming. I just did this album, which with this less expensive manufacturer, so say a press printed book, could be only $450, and you have $200 coming. So that would only be $250. So if you give them any kind of a credit in what they have coming, they'll buy more than what that credit was.
So just to clarify, you're saying for the shoot and burners to go out and maybe go ahead and do a wedding for nothing, let's say, and make an album, they can show that the future prospects.
Or for a wedding that wouldn't have merited that.
But it was to show that album to the future prospects, right?
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. Or even to themselves.
Just clarifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right, where you could, it's kind of like doing it on spec, right? Where you say, I'm going to start building album selling and the whole process of designing it.
Right.
And even if whatever part of this process, and to the listeners today, whatever part of this process is you're in resistance to, know that, like, don't let that be the thing that stops you. Either
Absolutely.
push through it, or there's companies and services out there that will do the album design for you. If you don't think you have the time, work with somebody to help you design them up front.
Absolutely. We use Fundy Album Builder, and there's other solutions.
Yep.
You can do an album with that software in half an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it can be all automated if you want it to. It might not be exactly what you're looking for, but it is real close,
Yep.
and that happens in about 5 minutes, which is incredible.
And
but then from there,
it's so much easier to edit for anybody, for you or your customer, to edit something that's already been done. So I think that's a really good
and
point.
you don't have to retouch them. You can do that once they've made the purchase.
Right.
So even if you're trying to break out and shoot and burn, do it for as little as you can, but offer other products. You'll see that you'll be able to, now that someone did buy an album, spend more money, they'll tell their friends. And now you can include a collection that does include an album or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
That's the best way to break out of, here are your files, goodbye.
Exactly.
And you will start to learn how to sell. At first it's difficult. When we meet with a client, sometimes there's a little resistance, and we do have to ask for the sale. After all, we're in business to make a living.
Right.
I think 20, 30 years ago, when I was learning about this career, you could own a studio, and that's what you strive for, to have a brick and mortar on the boulevard,
Yep.
and you would be able to have a business and own a home and put your kids through college and buy a boat.
Yeah.
Now, if you start with the other mode, which is shoot and burn and augment your income, I don't know that you can achieve that unless you're prepared to learn how to sell as well as to learn how to shoot. But anyway, that's what we bring to the table.
And here's another thing for shoot and burn, which I'm going to talk about, Sticky Albums. Your product is a great resource that people not able to show physical product yet, they can offer the Sticky Album as a value product after the wedding. So the photographer say, here's the package price of the shoot of the shoot we're going to do for you. Just shoot only, files only. However, for another, whatever, $200-300, whatever they want to say, we'll design a beautiful, album for you that's just going to be for online use. Would you like that?
Yeah.
And who wouldn't want that? I think if of course, show some examples of ones that they've done already on their iPad or whatever. I think that's a great sales tool and a great way to up the sale a little bit more.
I'll tell you how we use your product, which has been very, very helpful.
All right.
Yes.
We don't mention it. It's not in our price book. It's not anywhere. We don't even mention it as a way of getting a sale. If they didn't book, they didn't book. They can really visualize it with their wedding, in my opinion. Once they get their album, they come in to pick it up. Sometimes we give them a bottle of champagne so they can share it that evening and looking at it with each other. We try to make it into a big event when they come, look at the album first. So then we tell them, we're going to send you a little present in a couple of days once you've had time to have fun with your album and so forth. So in a couple of 3 days, they get an email from us thanking them for the experience. They've been great clients. We can't wait till we can do that maternity session or that family portrait, especially if we've brought it up before, which we always do. And by the way, here's a present from us to you that you can put on your iPhone and your iPad. You can share with your families of your beautiful album. That way you don't have to carry it around. And chance it for it to be damaged in the back of the car or something like that.
Right.
You can carry this with you all the time.
Yeah.
So it's an unexpected pleasure that they get from us, that it's such a nice thing for us to do. They didn't bargain for it. We didn't use it as a bargaining chip. But believe me, we have gotten work because they've shared it with their friends and they want to know who the photographer is. And of course, our name is on it.
And as wedding photographers, we have such a great opportunity to have more have these clients forever. Because obviously, they've already worked with us. They know how we work. They love our work. And now, hopefully, for the future, milestones in life, they'll hire us as their photographer. But this is just a way to keep that going.
Yeah,
if you're in a restaurant, you can't walk around with your food and give it to people on the line of the grocery store. Or if you have a cleaners, you can't always wear the suit and not sit down.
Right.
If you're a photographer, your clients can carry your product around and they're always happy to show it to people.
Right.
I guess I should say, if you're the customer of the cleaners, you're not going to tell people, look how beautifully the suit was pressed.
Right.
But they're very happy to say, look how wonderful my photographs are that my photographer did.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're offering us a way to do post-job marketing to each couple's family and friends.
Right.
And by the way, one thing that we say at our workshops, this is something that goes beyond what we always say, which is at every wedding, it's a 10-hour audition. At every wedding, you have the opportunity to become the official photographer of at least 3 families. The newly found family, of course, the bride's family, and the groom's family, and whoever else happens to ask for your card.
Right.
This is a way to continue to do that after the fact when they're gone.
Yeah.
follow up with every client, by the way, on their first anniversary and so forth, because we want to be their lifelong photographers. But your product allows us to start that process right away.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that example.
Sure.
That's been one of my favorite parts of launching Sticky Albums is hearing there's no right or wrong way to use it. I think that my favorite, I think depending on how you've structured your business, there's a lot of people that use it as the pull-through incentive, but I tell people not to start there because I believe pull-through incentives work best when people already know what it is. When they've touched it, they felt it, they understand it. Where it works good as a pull through is when you have when it's like a referral coming in saying, "Oh, I saw Matt and Jenny's amazing app. How do they get one of those?" Right. Then it's like, "Oh, well, actually that's a bonus when all of the images that you select in your print album, they're included in your free mobile album. And we give that to you as a surprise at the end." Right. So that's one way it can be used as a pull through, but bottom line is I designed it first and foremost as a marketing tool, and you guys, I can tell through and through, you understand that it's worth just the new business it can get you instead of diluting the sales session. We're explaining the product and stuff like that.
When we first read about it, that's exactly what we thought of.
That's frankly so cool. And so the last part you talked about is the timing of it is so great. Where when people they get their print album, or some photographers are actually using it to bridge that gap. If you've got a 2 to 3 week wait until your album gets printed, but they've sat in the session with you guys and they built this great album. And, oh my God, I cannot wait to get this. Sometimes because you don't have to wait for a sticky album to print, people will give that as like a surprise. They get home and they're like, oh my gosh, because that's when we are so excited, right? That's when your clients are the most emotional and excited. Right. That's the best time to give them a tool to go out and talk about you because they're going to anyway, and now they've got something in their pocket.
I guess we want to prolong the experience, but you're absolutely right. That's another method that could definitely work.
Right.
So
I dig it. So thank you guys for sharing that example. What are some of your other favorite tactics and techniques that you're using to promote and market your business?
Can I do 3 and you can elaborate?
Sure.
Okay. Right. We primarily, this business and most businesses are based on relationships. Yep. We really bring that home to everybody that we meet. Yep. We work so hard. Every photographer works many long hours, and you end up developing friendships with the people in the industry. Right. We work very closely with a couple of other photographers that are in our price range that we refer each other. That's cool. That's probably the 4th way that we get weddings. Those relationships that we establish are primarily with wedding coordinators. Yep. That we have 2 or 3 that we're their go-to person. They'd only take the client to a second one if for some reason they didn't like us for some reason. And then there's another bunch that they send us 2 or 3 a year. So, and we are always grateful to them for that. We photograph family portraits. We help them in any way we can with IT issues if they have them. And of course, we have this wonderful product that to put in their sites. Besides that, we work with venues, getting on the vendor list. That's really important. There's 3 or 4 venues that some have included us in the list without us even knowing. Others charge to be in a particular book that's given to the client.
So let me pull this one apart. So for somebody who's just starting out and making a name for themselves, I think it's obviously a strategy that is kind of a snowball, right? Where it starts small, but as you build over the course of your business, it's something you invest in, or strategy you invest in over the long term. Because now you guys have a handful of people, of close vendors you've built long-term relationships with that consistently send you business.
Right. Yes.
Somebody just starting out is not going to be able to create that in year 1, right? Well, so where do you start? Where do you start with that?
Okay, I will say, this is what we think. Yeah. If you're just starting out and no one knows who the heck you are, the first thing you got to think of is, where are the brides going to find me? Where are the brides I'm looking for? Where are they going? Well, the first place they're either going to the dress shop to try on their dresses, and they're going to the venue to book their date. Yep. So those are the first 2 places where brides go. Now, these are probably there's a lot of opportunity there because there's lots of dress shops, and there's lots of venues, and you can start at the Holiday Inn or at the golf course or at the you can even, you might not be able to get into the Ritz right away. Obviously, you need to make a name for yourself. But they have weddings at the Holiday. We've done weddings at the Holiday Inn. We're not too proud to say,
Right.
And there were great weddings. You just got to start developing those relationships with those catering managers at all those venues, and start with the ones nearby you. Go there, introduce yourself. Bring them stuff. Who doesn't like a nice little gift of something? Bring them a little summertime gift or a springtime gift or something nice. Find out you can call the front desk and get the names of all the people in the catering office.
Right.
Who's in charge of booking weddings.
Yeah.
Get their names, get their emails. The front desk will give you all that information.
Mm-hmm.
Introduce yourself. Can I come by? I'd love to pop by for 5 minutes, say hello, introduce myself. Bring them something yummy or whatever, or a nice little gift. That's how you do it.
Yeah. Start
making yourself known. And then wedding dress shops as well. A great way to start, maybe some of the smaller boutiques that don't have a lot. I know the larger boutiques have more rules and regulations about who they'll let promote their business there.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a smaller boutique, you might have an opportunity to maybe leave some cards there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, nice photography of a dress, maybe from that location. Maybe you had a bride. If you have a bride, always ask, where'd you get your dress? Because then you can take images of her in her beautiful dress and make a little 5x7 card or something and leave it there. So
another thing that works is go to a local florist, maybe not a large one, and tell them, next time you do a nice wedding, I'll go with you and shoot the setup before you leave. Mm-hmm. Because she may not know the photographer that's doing it. Yep. So now you have beautiful pictures of a setup in a hotel, and you might want to check with the official photographer that wedding to let them know that you're not going to contact his clients, that you're going to be gone by the time they come in. But now you have great areas in a hotel, and you can now offer those images to the hotel or to the golf course or whatever, as well as the florist that got you there. Right. Or go to the local municipal golf club and say, when you have a wedding here that you want to show off, especially if you don't know or don't have a relationship with the photographer that's going to be coming with that bride, and maybe he's late getting the room shots, I'll be happy to do that for you. Just let me hang a couple, leave some cards here. If you do that enough, that will get you some. And also, a great way to get started too is at workshops and so forth. If you attend some, especially the ones where maybe are not very inexpensive, to where the people there are serious, try to make some relationships with the other photographers that are attending. You can second shoot for each other. You can start referring each other. And that's a great way. The first year, even if you are sharing images with other people, it's very good. It's going to be something that you're going to want to retire those in a year anyway.
Right,
but
right.
Getting the time you're not going to do anything is if you stay home and not go out and network.
These are all fantastic examples. Right. So I think that to summarize, that at any moment, there's a lot of work you can do on the front end to prepare, and build these relationships with people in your industry. The key thing is when you're working with other vendors and other companies is to start from a place of how can you help? Like, what can you bring them a goodie, bring them something free, but how can I help your business? Before we go in just asking for help nobody wants, they're busy, right? You've got to start with, how can I do you a favor? How can I help you out?
So
we'll stand out.
Go ahead.
Something that I recommend every new photographer needs to read this book.
Yeah.
It's called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. I'm reading this right now. Great information about networking, about how to get out there and meet people. Lots of different examples of what he's done in his life. He's not a photographer by any means, but in any business is about relationships, especially in this day and age.
Right.
More than ever.
It's so true. That's awesome. I've heard a couple other people recommend that book. I'm going to check it out now.
Good for you.
It's an easy read.
That's awesome.
Mirta reads it to me when we're traveling somewhere.
I love to read.
She's a great car reader.
I love to read out loud in the car.
That's awesome.
It's a weird thing I do. What can I say?
That's better than the audiobook. That's cool.
Right. Yeah.
So the last thing I was going to say then is, so there's all the stuff you can do in advance of your weddings, of your events, of your sessions, and don't miss these tiny opportunities during the shoots you do have, the weddings you do have booked, to showcase every vendor that's a part of it, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all looking for. Your only client is not just your client, right? You could be doing awesome work for whoever sold the dress, for the catering company, for the flower company, for the venue.
Right.
All of that stuff is pretty.
Oh yeah, we shoot everything. Everything we see, we shoot. The food, the dress, the
The limo, maybe.
the limo, the closest to the flowers. I mean, all those things are so important because somebody made those things, and it could be a potential vendor you could work with in the future, or maybe it was the bride herself who made it. Who knows?
Right.
But as long as you have those images, you can use those for marketing.
Also, make sure you note what the first dance song was, because if you're going to show them that album, it would be wonderful if it's to the music of that song.
Yeah.
And little things. One thing that I should also point out, we've been talking in reverse here. We said, let's not be so into the craft.
Yeah.
Let's focus more on business. But the craft is very important.
Right.
And you're not going to get to the higher end wedding if you don't have the goods to show.
Right.
Learn your lighting, learn your posing, learn to do off-camera lighting in the corner in the room, and get the pocket wizards and make that happen. Take your craft to the next level, even if that particular client didn't deserve so, given what they spend with you, because you're using them to make a sample album from the next one that might. So again, when you go to the workshops, the business is important, as we've said, but learn to pose a heavier bride, make a good, a very modest venue, make it look good.
Right.
Learn your shallow depth of field, learn working with wide angles and long lenses, practice, practice, practice. Most of the higher end weddings, you have very limited time, and they expect to be published. Sometimes they spend over $100,000 in flowers and you got 10 minutes to shoot the room.
Yeah.
That's when it makes a difference to know what you're doing and not seem like you don't.
And the right lighting can make even the most whatever arrangement or whatever detail look really sexy. It's so much about the lighting, and I think our craft is kind of losing that whole thing, because the last few years we've heard, oh, I only shoot natural light. I'm a natural light photographer. Well, window light. Well, not everything is going to be in perfect window light when you're shooting something on the table.
Actually, I believe in only using available light. I like to use the light available from my 910 Nikon strobe. That's available to me. I bought it. So it's to make it look like it didn't come from a flash. Bounce it off the back wall.
Right.
But it's so important.
Exactly.
And it allows you to get that depth of field that you need when you're shooting close-up work, whatever. All these things are really important. So the craft, like Joe's saying, is just as important as all the marketing business as well. It's not neat, and it's a lot of work, but
it is.
It's doing what we love to do, and we're our own bosses.
And learning is fun in this industry.
Right.
It is.
At both aspects. I see people that are bored when we're talking business in our workshops. Others have their eyes open 10 times. Those are the ones I'm afraid of. They're local, because they're listening to the right stuff.
Right.
So try to enjoy learning the business, because we are in a business. We're photographers to make a living at something we love to do, but don't forget the make a living part. And I don't mean we are professionals. We spend a lot of time learning our craft. Our investment in equipment is substantial. We should not be making less than a plumber.
Right.
We should be able to generate a good style of living and be able to have vacations and be able to enjoy a good
and maybe be able to retire someday too, right?
Yeah, hopefully. Yes.
What is that? I don't know. Retire? I've never heard of that. But you're absolutely right.
Exactly. Yep. This is just great stuff. So, so what do you guys do other than shooting weddings and photography? Tell me a little bit about the workshops you guys do and why you got into that and why you love doing workshops.
Absolutely.
Can I say?
All right, go ahead. You start.
Let me say why we started doing workshops.
Yeah.
The reason why we started doing it, we started doing workshops about 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
At that time, it was about 6 or 7 years ago. There were a lot of up-and-coming photographers giving workshops.
Right.
I mean, every week there was a new someone and there were a lot of them local to us, so we knew who these people were.
Yep.
And of course, we go check out their websites and see, and we were seeing that the quality of their work, we didn't feel was really justifying that of them giving workshops. And then we actually, went to a few just because we're curious, and we just saw the type of quality that was being instructed, and we thought, you know what, no. We've been doing this for so long. We want this industry to continue going up, not down, because if people following this other information, not good information.
Yep.
So we thought, I think it's, I feel almost an obligation to get out there and to share what we've known. We've been helped too with our photography. We wanted to give back a little bit as well. Yep. So that's one of the main reasons.
And it's not about a lot of the photographers that do workshops. It's hard, it's about branding. You don't have to work that hard. No, it is hard work, but it's work that we enjoy.
Right.
It is hard work and long hours. Don't kid yourself. You
Exactly.
can't just put a little thing in your website and the orders will come in, or the bookings will come in without even wanting to meet you. It is hard work. And a lot of photographers are well known by other photographers, but Bride don't know us from Adam.
Yep.
We have to sell ourselves. So it is hard work, but we need to tell them what they need to do. They're willing to work hard, but they just don't know what to do.
Right.
And some of our peers in this challenging economy have told us that we're teaching the newbies and that's bad because we're taking food out of their mouth. I beg to differ. If the newbie is charging more money, there'll be less of a threat of someone that's already established, because it won't be such an obvious choice to the bride as far as price is concerned. The discerning bride knows that they better spend more if they want quality, but there's some, I think a $3,000 photographer that offers an album is challenged by a $1,500 shoot and burner. But if that shoot and burner now is offering an album and charging more, they'll be able to compete in more of a level field. Right. Most of the workshops we do, by the way, are at Sammy's professional camera store in Orange County and Los Angeles.
Okay.
We do a wedding workshop where it's business and shooting and post-production. Yep. And a portrait. We do three portrait classes. One is beginning studio with large strobes and boxes. Advanced studio with the same but now grids and things like that, and one on how to do portrait lighting indoor and outdoor with your on-camera flash, off-camera with triggering devices and so forth. So we do that in both of those locations, and every year we do at least one large workshop with models and so forth. We call it Recharge at Rancho. Rancho Las Lomas is a beautiful privately owned estate in Orange County. It's called Rancho Las Lomas. And we're fortunate to be able to do a workshop there at least every Memorial Day. We have one coming up on the 27th. We have 2 opening spots there. And there we bring 2 couples dressed in flowers. Meals are included, of course. So that's where you change your business, I think. We teach a little bit of everything, and it's a full day. So we try to give back when we can, both at the smaller classes at Sammy's and our full day workshops.
That's fantastic. I think that I've been exposed to a lot of training as well, and I love seeing courses and programs that include a little bit of everything, where you get the business side of things, as well as you get to go and learn how to use this new technique and new technology and new tools in a safe environment, so that you can build out your portfolio and build out your skill set at the same time.
Right. And we also teach, we like it when people see why they're shooting something. It's not just, here's the models, we'll pose them, you shoot them. We show how to shoot in bad lighting situations, backlight, fill with a reflector, how to post a couple in different environments, how to use off-camera flash. And there's a little bit of teaching, a lot of teaching, as well as the opportunity to build a portfolio that eventually you'll replace with some of your own brides and so forth. But it gets you a way to get started.
Perfect.
In a location that perhaps you'll not, at this point, be able to get a wedding at such a high-end location.
Right.
So that's our story. We're sticking to it.
I love it. You guys are fantastic. Thank you. I really appreciate your time today. Is there any final words of wisdom, any cool marketing, places you guys like to learn about marketing, any other simple tips and tricks so somebody can start applying today? Anything else that we missed?
Well, I like the book. The book is good. I mean, the other thing we missed.
Go to your session, right? Go see in person. We'll learn the rest.
Either Sammy's, and it's Sammy's camera store. You go to education, or you can go to.
We'll have the links. We'll have the links below, right in this blog post. You'll have the links directly to anything to learn more.
We really try to teach and show. We'll show behind the image. We'll show an image and how we shot it. So there's some good educational stuff there.
If you go to barnetworkshops.com, we have a lot of articles on how we shoot at the beach and things like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I actually just checked one out before we started the call. I think that it's so easy to overlook what goes into creating images that will last and images that will set you apart. And when you start investing in your own education, I think that it's for the long term. It's to differentiate yourself and create a business for the rest of your career. So
I have actually a tip I forgot. Never stop learning.
Perfect.
You never stop. We never stop learning.
Right.
You know, I mean, if you feel you know it all, you're done. You know, and that's, we never want to be there.
And we sometimes have a client, one of our attendees, that doesn't know how to figure out the ISO on her camera, but I really like the way she actually put the camera on a tripod, or the way that she configured a bag, or that, you never know. You're always, by watching other photographers, no matter how advanced or how beginners they are, you'll find some other way of doing, or maybe holding a reflector a certain way.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes open and be humble. Be humble when you see someone that is a practitioner of your craft, no matter whether you're way ahead of them or it's the other way around.
Right.
Absolutely.
That is going to keep your brain open to new information.
Exactly.
Perfect.
So we always try to practice that.
Yeah.
That is so great to hear. Let's end on that note. I think that's great. Be humble. I think there's a lot of room for humility in our industry.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important.
You can take your ego in at the door.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
but in a very guarded way.
Exactly. Yep. Well, again, thank you both for your time today. I really appreciate it. I can't wait. Someday, hopefully, if I'm in California, I'll definitely look you up.
Come on
Absolutely.
down.
This is a blast learning from you guys, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
And thank you so much for your product. It's been a great, made a great difference in our business.
Thank you for Sticky Albums. We
Of
love it.
course. Thank you guys.
Bye.